It's that time of the day, that time of the hour, that time of the week, baby. Welcome back for another brand new episode of the Beyond Exhibition podcast with your two most favorite co-hosts in the entire world, my boy, the White Rhino, and me, myself, Eduardo. Now, we have a very special subject to talk about today. Here on the podcast, of course, for all you newcomers, we talk a lot about the random stuff, of course, but we're more on the conspiracy side. I think that's kind of like the juices get flowing once we talk about the conspiracies that just that are known to man or woman on this lovely planet of ours that we call Earth. But as of late, Brett, I mean, I know we're jumping straight into it, but before we do, actually, I want to ask you, how are you doing today, brother? It's rude of me. I know it's your house, so you remind me. It's my house. It's your house. But how are you doing today, brother?
Oh, fantastic, man.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing beats working a 60-hour week and then just never having a day off.
Oh, dude, I know.
But this is our day off right here.
Exactly.
This is what we live for.
This is where we kind of like disconnect and unplug and just kind of like forget about the real world and we step into our own little world. You know what I'm saying? The world you see here behind us and all that.
Just give it an extra spin,
Yeah. That'll be sick to have, though, here. One of those globes that just spins and just spin it for all time's sake.
No, I was talking about the revolver.
Oh.
Sometimes we're not completely in sync.
Yeah, no.
But that's what makes it good.
That does spin too. So yeah, but yeah, definitely. Just not in that form though, of course not. But yeah, man. I mean, it's more or less, yeah. This podcast is just definitely us two, good friends coming together and talking some good stuff about just everything that's going on in the world, conspiracies. It could be sports. It could just be randomness, of course. So you'll never know what to expect from the podcast, of course. But we have some. Actually, I want to give a slight tease. We do have some cool stuff in the works, I must say, on your behalf. Don't want to expose too much, but we have a very cool episode coming up very soon. I know people love when we have guests on the podcast. We're gonna have some previous guests that we've done on our platform before. On a future episode, that's going to be very cool to kind of continue the subject on stuff that to continue the conversation on subject that we've talked about before. So stay tuned for that. Don't want to reveal too much, but definitely stay tuned. Of course, we haven't been really pumping out as much content as we have before in the past. As we try to do episode release every week.
Yeah.
But of course, scheduling conflicts, finding the time to do it, has been kind of an issue. But we do our best to bring our lovely viewers and listeners some new content for you guys to enjoy. Because that's what we love to do. We love to bring some good stuff for everybody to enjoy, get you through your day, get you through your week, get you through your 8-hour shift, your 12-hour shift, you name it. We try to bring some enlightenment and entertainment, of course, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that what I'm hoping is that the stuff that we're coming out with kind of makes up for some of the missed opportunities we've had. So, we've got... Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've got some top secret things going on the side, so I think this is gonna be a good year, bro.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's the conversation just to continue off the conversation we had because it was very interesting because everything's kind of falling in line with what we're talking about is like your the number of success or the number of seeking opportunities or going for opportunities, staying active, right? Which is very interesting because everything.
Are you talking about the numerology stuff?
The numerology stuff, yes.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because it's like, damn, that's actually what you're doing though, right? Like you're actually doing it as you're seeing it, and I'm like, damn, dude, this dude's really moving about his stuff.
So yeah, let's get everybody
up. We can talk about that before we get to
jump in. Yeah, we'll jump into that one. That's a good little starting point. So earlier today, Eduardo and I were talking about different things. I was telling him just about like how reading the Bible like every week and or every day, and trying to get through a chapter a day. That's the goal. Don't ever make it. But still just chugging through it and just talking about the different numbers that you see in the Bible. Like you see 12, like Jacob had 12 sons, right? And those were the tribes of Judah or the tribes of Israel. And then I was just talking about how there's numerology as well, and how numerologists will try to tell you that these numbers tell you something. So this, this birth date puts you on a life path number of this. This is your destiny number, all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I was telling you, I was like, well, so I see all this stuff, right? And let's just say, like, for me, like I do believe in my faith, and I believe it, like, with my heart. But let's just say you didn't. Let's just say you were someone who was just kind of on the fence with it. My argument today with you was, I think that is, like reading the Bible or even like getting into numerology and reading all of those, it can serve as a placebo effect. So like when you're, going to the doctor and the doctor doesn't quite know if you're really as sick as you are, maybe you're just a hypochondriac and he's just like, I'm just going to test this out, gives you a fake pill and it's all in your mind, right? And I was talking about how powerful our minds are.
Definitely. Yep.
And so I started reading this, and it ties in with psychology as well. And I've always been really heavily interested in psychology and how people think and, all this stuff. So I was looking at numerology, and I was looking at it in the context of not believing it, but looking at it where, okay, this is what it says about my life path. It says I'm a life path 6. And it's talking about all these things like I'm a creative type and I should be a teacher and I should be, all these things, right? And they all kind of line up. But I'm like, okay, but I've also read horoscopes that like, I'm a Pisces and I've read Scorpio's horoscopes and I'm like, oh, that applies to me more than my Pisces, right? And so I'm just thinking, this is probably just all a bunch of fluff. There's people that really believe in it.
Oh, dude, there's people that follow it like heavily, right? Yeah.
Like, I think Kanye West actually has a quote that says, and I think it even goes before him. I think it's actually, he took it from JP Morgan back in the day.
Okay.
Who said, millionaires. Oh, we're going to have to shut that thing off this time.
Oh, no, I meant to shut it off. It's all good. No worries. It's background noise.
Yeah, we're just cooking. But JP Morgan said something like, millionaires, something, I don't know, but then, like millionaires read about numerology, billionaires follow it. Something like that.
Okay.
That's not the right quote, but something like that. Somebody put it in the comments what the true quote is, but something like that. So there's people that really, really follow this stuff.
Yeah.
So like me, I was born on the 28th. 28th in numerology is a wealth number, right?
Yeah.
And so they tell you, so if you do anything, if you're making any business moves, make sure it's on the 28th.
Okay.
So like
keep note, 28th, make some business moves.
28th. But then again, what the point I'm making is that I think my theory is that it's a placebo effect. So what I'm saying is, if you read the Bible or if you read the numerology or you read a book on astrology or whatever, what it's doing is it's pointing you in a direction. It's saying, okay, so this is the information, and it's like making you feel good. You're like, wow, yeah, I want to do this. I want to be that. I want to, all that. And then in order to do this, it will tell you need to do this. The Bible will tell you that. Hey, if you want to be a better person, this is what you have to do. Same thing with numerology. They'll tell you, hey, if you want, if you're short on love or you're single and you really want to be involved with someone, it will tell you what to do. But it's leading you in the path of taking action,
guidance, Tim, pretty much, right?
Guidance, yeah. So it's like it's kind of like a little coach.
Yeah.
But I want to know from you guys: is that do you guys believe in numerology, astrology, tarot, anything like that? If you do you follow those rules that they tell you to line up, like on your number, like on your wealth days? Do you wait until the 28th to do something like that, or whatever? Yeah,
it's an interesting, definitely topic, because like I've met people in the past that do follow their astrology pretty heavily, or they're really keen to knowing, like at work especially, there's people that look at their like daily like their month and their days, like what's in store for them. But they really go off that, right? Like I think it's kind of like you said, the placebo effect, where they try to get it in their mind to like really make themselves believe like today's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Today's going to be, you're going to learn something new that's going to benefit you in the long run, or something like that, right? But I mean, it's true though, because I think it's a positive thing, right, to really have that outlook, especially when you start your day, that you want to think positive, not think negative, so you can carry out your day with having that one single thought that something bad's going to happen or whatever, right? So it's a good thing to go by.
And I think, there's so many people out there, they're detractors, right? There's people that say, oh, that's pseudoscience, that's not real, whatever. Here, the way I see it is, if it's working for somebody, let them do it.
Yeah.
If that is working for them and that they are being proactive. They're doing things with their life that they have wanted to do, and they just needed that one missing little piece of the puzzle, which ended up being a book on numerology. I say let them do it.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. One thing I will, though, I'll push back on a little bit is, like, they'll talk about your enemy years, right? I think his name is, like, Gary Ginsberg or whatever. He's like, he claims he's like the godfather of numerology, and all truth be told, there's so many people that have tracked his losses.
Yeah.
He goes down. What made him big was that he went down to Las Vegas and he's like, yeah, I make all these bets because I bet on all these numbers and I use numerology to pick my bets. Right. Well, there's people that track his losses.
It doesn't look
so
good.
He won't advertise his losses, but if he gets like an $80,000 bet, he's all over X, like announcing that he's won all these, but he will not reveal what he's lost.
Yeah.
And so be careful, like, with those people.
Yeah.
But he is one of those people that I was watching a few of his videos, kind of just shaking my head because he's talking about enemy years, right? If you're a rat, your enemy year is the year of the snake. So, like, he'll talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump was, what was he, a rat or something? And then last year was the year of the snake or something. And then like, yeah, look, he had all these court cases and all this and that. And so that's what he will use to justify.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, you can throw anything at the wall and whatever sticks. You can find anything to stick.
Yeah.
So, it could have been anything. And someone like him would have used any type of bad news they could have found.
For sure.
So be careful on that end.
So like you said, to justify whatever he's saying, to kind of make it link up. Like, see, this is why. Okay. Dang. So, moral of the story, if it helps you out and it's a positive thing, it doesn't hurt anybody else, why not?
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, we had a good
tool.
conversation off the pod. I mean, it's like times like that where I feel like, man, we should have had like a secret recorder on us to talk about that stuff, because we went pretty deep on that.
We did.
He schooled me up on some stuff, and I'm like, damn, that's pretty interesting. But
talking about the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, interesting stuff though. But today, man, as of recent, actually, I want to say we've had some, what they say is groundbreaking, one of the most groundbreaking news that we've discovered in our lifetime, considerably. That's what they say. So they say
the JFK files.
That too. Oh, you want to?
No. Go in there. I was just throwing a little curveball.
That's a good one. That's another one too. Definitely. That's obviously out now. Obviously, they released the JFK files, but of course, we're talking about the pyramids.
Yeah.
Now, this has been a topic of discussion that's been brought up in the past, on the podcast, in the past previous episodes, of course. It somehow just comes up. It's only because it's definitely one of the 7 wonders of the world, but nonetheless, it's just mega structures that you can actually look at or think about, or look at videos, pictures, whatever, and always ask yourself, did human beings really build this by hand? Like, and how? That's the one question that's always been asked, and they really have no definitive answers. So there's theories, right, that they go about saying that they use some type of like ramps or whatever, or they even said there was like the Nile River that helped them probably float all this stuff, down beyond or whatever. But I mean, nobody
I don't know
really
how
knows.
many tons
Dude, they weigh a ton,
that each block weighed.
Oh, it was
they
crazy
said that
amount.
the material, the granite material that they use, isn't even local from that local area. So they had to import it from somewhere else. So how are you importing that many blocks from somewhere else?
And also the math they had to really have down to the T to make everything fit perfect.
Oh yeah, they were within millimeters.
Yes. So you think about, you take all that into just, into your mind and just really ask all these questions, right? They threw a curveball at us, Brett.
Okay.
They definitely. When I saw the video, kind of a gentleman explaining it, kind of just what these new discoveries were, you almost kind of like have to sit back and think and ask yourself again, did human beings really build this? Now it gets to the point where these details that we're going to get into, it's just far out of the realm of just even like comprehending, like, dang, so much more work than we initially thought went into this, of building these pyramids. So these new findings were actually brought out on the 15th of this month of March. So today is the 21st. So this was a couple of days ago, literally.
Yeah.
So They detailed 5 identical multi-level structures connected by geometric passageways near the base of the Kafiri pyramid. Now they're saying that all the other 4 pyramids, I think there's 4 of them, right?
Okay.
They have the same thing. What they're saying, that they have multi-level structures connected, passageways underneath the pyramids. So not just one.
Yeah.
We're talking about 4. Four of these pyramids, they have those passageways connected at the bottom. So how did they find this out? Like, okay, that's the other question. How did they find this out? How would they be able to tell, right? Like, okay, what's underneath? This is how we were able to, this is pretty much how they did it. They used SAR, synthetic aperture radar, tomography. So this was actually used before, and I've watched a video about this before. They did them over there in I want to say it was Guatemala, where they used this same technology. They looked at under all this overgrown forest, and they actually found a bunch of passageways that were connecting to all of their different buildings. And they come to find out that there was like these like canals that the rivers connected through all these little areas where everybody living in certain parts of the connected canals, they each had access to running water. So it was so intricately like built, like it was just something that you wouldn't expect. Like how did they have I mean, they had the time for sure.
Yeah.
But the idea of doing this, like it was just so ahead of its time, I think. And you look back at all that stuff, and especially with the pyramids now, everything has a purpose, right? But the question is like, what purpose was this? Before it was like, it was burial grounds for the highest pharaohs, the pharaohs, all that. It was just burial grounds.
Yeah.
That's all out the window.
Until they found more.
That's completely out the window. So they used SAR, synthetic aperture radar. So it was Corrado Malanga of the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi of the University of Strathclyde scanned the Kafiri pyramid and uncovered what appears to be the underground system stretching 2 kilometers beneath all 3 major pyramids. So there's 3, not 4. I apologize for that. So to give you this perspective, 2 kilometers is actually a little bit over a mile. And they compared it that it's as taller than the Khalifa building in Dubai. Just to give you guys like a comparison.
So whatever's underground is taller than...
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So think about that, people. And what's crazy, a while ago, I remember somebody did a rendition of them drawing the pyramids, but they linked it to where maybe that's just the tip of the actual full like structure, and the you know how the pyramid obviously points.
Yep,
that's actually the top of it, and there's more underneath. Somebody had guessed that a long time ago.
Where they've like what you're saying, like an artist rendition of it looking closer to the Washington Monument, and then but it's all buried under sand.
Yeah,
which if you believe in the flood theory, and there's a big flood and it's just moving mud and sand and soil everywhere, it's going to cover a lot of stuff. So, dude, I mean, there could be a lot underneath.
Yeah. So 2 kilometers, pretty much a little bit over a mile, goes far down beyond, brother.
So why is it because they just want to preserve the site as best they can? But I guess my question is, why aren't they excavating any of this stuff?
Well, that's what they're trying to do. Actually, they're actually having I believe at this time right now, they're really trying to convince the Egyptian government to give them access so they can potentially, I'm assuming, drill down there to see, like, to really confirm that there's something running down even furthermore underneath them. But of course, I get it. I understand.
Just lead you to more questions.
Well, that's the thing, right? But I get they're trying to preserve these lovely structures, of course, and they're trying to make sure that none of the things going to pretty much damage one of them. I'm sure, because it's something that's been there for 5,000 years. It's like, I'm sure they wouldn't want somebody just going ahead and drilling all the way down there and potentially, causing any damage of some sorts. But
one of them collapses.
Oh, dude, I mean, I want to be the guy, manning that drill, dude. That's crazy. But of course, yeah. So even more striking were the 8 vertical cylindrical wells encircled by spiral pathways descending 648 meters below the surface. These wells ultimately merged into 2 massive cube-shaped chambers, each measuring 80 meters on each side.
Wow.
So So they're talking about these wells, these cylindrical, pretty much pillars was what they are.
Yeah.
And there's a picture. I'll try to see if I can get one and potentially not like, dock us on YouTube, because I'm trying to be very careful on when I add like certain clips or certain pictures, because I just don't want to get docked, of course. And I always give credit to anybody that posts pictures, of course, or any renditions of what we're talking about. But I'll try to post it up in this part of the video. But of course, just to better describe it, cylindrical pillars, and what looks like it has like these spiraled pathways. But it almost looked, it just to me, like from when I first looked at it, it almost looked like a coil, like what coils look like.
Yeah.
So now you're asking, okay, pathways meaning they go like you walk in them and you go all the way down further down, or are they some type of coils that have to do with some type of like
energy
conductor or something like that? That's where things get juicier, because there's been always that conspiracy that these pyramids were some type of solar, like they were harnessing energy from the sun to power up something.
So I've heard that theory.
See,
yeah,
but what is that something? Like what? Like you have to think about this, right? 5,000 years ago, right? You don't have your normal washer and dryer or TV or fridge they're going to try to power up. Like unless they were powering up some type of light or something at that magnitude, something that huge, what is it powering up?
Well, the only theory I've heard is they talk about how there's similar pyramids throughout the world. Like the Aztecs have theirs. In Mexico, they have theirs. Peru, they have theirs. Mars has pyramids.
Yeah, that's
so like if you are looking about, maybe that was their way of directing energy. I don't know. Dude, I don't know. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. This is really a big deal, because everything, just like I said, everything changes the course of just what are these? Like what was the intent of these? And I also heard another one about it could possibly be a weapon.
That's what I've heard too. I've heard a weapon of mass destruction. What are they trying to mass destruct?
I mean, didn't they say that the moon had once upon a time structures?
The moon. I forgot about the moon. Yeah. Well, dude, and then look at us. We're in 2025, and Elon Musk, props to Doge,
cleaning up shop,
just wiping out the Department of Education. That was my plan all along. But we're, here, they've always talked about these pyramids on Mars, and now, he's talking about by 2030, 2031, human beings going back to Mars.
Going back to Mars.
Going back or going to Mars, I should say. I guess I've heard the theory that our species originally came from Mars. I don't know if that's true, but the fact that we're talking about putting humans in our lifetime, like short lifetime.
That's crazy. I mean, 2030.
You look at all the chaos. That would be like a vacation. Like there's nowhere on Earth you can go on vacation without fear of some sort, right? But imagine going to Mars where like there's nobody there to rob you.
Nothing. Like, nothing. Like
no TSA to frisk you.
Nothing. Real America. It's as America as it's gonna get. You know what I'm saying,
dude? Do you think that we will call it like because America's going there first? So how we have like the Gulf of America now. Do you think we'll call like Mars New America
or like Mars of America or something like that, dude? I mean, I wouldn't put it past us to do something like that. But I mean, it's. I think it's comparison to the race, like back in the days where it was like the race to the moon. I mean, I'm sure we're not the only ones that want to touch base on Mars. I mean, it's kind of like with the moon itself. They want to be able to put some type of like a satellite up there or close to it or something like that with China and all that.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows, really, dude? I mean, it's kind of a race to really indent or put our footsteps on Mars, the moon, which we already have. But it's like, I don't know what's going to hold, but if he's saying around 2030, that's just around the corner, my friend.
It's crazy how we're looking at so far in the future, which I mean is right around the corner if we're being serious. And we're talking about, I mean, dude, we're talking about Star Wars. We're living in Star Wars. Like when I was a kid, I was still young enough that they still played the Jetsons.
Yeah.
And I think Betty was the robot in there.
Yep.
And I wanted my own Betty. Like I'm like, man, when I grow up, I just want my own Betty. And now like for the first time in my life, like we might actually have a Betty.
Dude, I just saw a video not so long ago of I think it says the Boston Dynamics. I believe it's Boston Dynamics, right, where they make like robots. They're getting very intricate with their stuff, bro. Like they're getting so close to where these robots move almost so fluid as like it's close to like a human's movement.
Well, that's what scares me. I've seen those videos, right? And I'm like, all I can picture is Terminator, and all of them have guns, you know? And so like, what are you going to do to a droid, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you shoot him? Shoot him in the eye, you know? Like, you know, how do you take him down?
Yeah.
And there's so many of them. But I'm just thinking, I think that's more of a fear, like psychological factor.
Yeah.
I think the real one, you see all these drones that they're doing.
Yeah.
Imagine this swarm of drones, which, you know, we were talking about the Bible earlier. In the book of Revelation, it talks about a swarm of hornets that is just, dude, there's your drones right there.
Yeah.
And like, you know, so here it is, like 1990s me or early 2000s me reading the Bible and reading that and just like, where are we going to get all these hornets? You know? And then now looking at our drone technology and the fact that Russia and Ukraine are using drones to just massacre each other, which I just hope would end.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it does not look like that we're going to see world peace anytime soon. So you talk about, you know, and you talk about China, they are the ones generating, you know, that manufacture a lot of these drones. So
yeah, no, that's
you
true.
sent me some cool drones where it has someone like whipped it up with like a 9mm. You know?
That's the drone I want. Yeah. Patrolling my house, just hovering, just in case somebody wants to try something funny. You know what I'm saying?
I think that falls under 2A still. I think
we'll have to implement it somehow. We're gonna have to, you know, reach out to Trump and tell him, hey, yo, can these fly under the Second Amendment?
Yeah,
so we can just purchase one.
I can own my own drone gun, right? Right? I mean, because here's the thing: you read the amendment, and it talks about like you cannot, like the goal of the Second Amendment is to make sure that the citizenry, there's not a massive what's that called? Like a difference between like what the guns that the government can have versus the citizenry, so that the citizenry has a fighting chance if the government goes all tyrannical.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely want to protect ourselves and our freedoms, dude. I mean, that's kind of that's kind of how I look at it. Like, hey, they try to do something funny, I got one. You know what I'm saying?
It's really weird, like living in our country right now. Like, I can't tell you how happy I am. I
can tell. I mean, I'm sure everybody can tell.
Every day I'm happy. I'm like, man, you know, I like the only thing, we don't have physical newspapers anymore, but like, you know, it's just like you would always wake up on Saturday morning and see your dad like reading the newspaper and sports section always, you know, but I'm like, man, if I'm just reading the paper, I'm like, oh my God, we're cutting this fund, or we're cutting this agency, we're getting this person in, you know, and like today, when they were talking about the Department of Education, I mean, dude, I heard, like, I'm so used to politicians lying that I'm just like, I just think it's all fluff. Like, they'll say whatever they can to get in, but they actually won't do it. Like, he won't actually build a wall, will he?
They don't speak. They don't actually, you know, do the action. They just speak it,
right?
But they don't do it.
Yeah. Just sweet little lies, you know. But you know, he's talking about, I'm going to dismantle Department of Education, and the people on the other side make it, they are making it sound like he's on a full on dictatorship tear, and they're talking about how this is one of the biggest catastrophe, the catastrophe with the Department of Education. And I'm focusing on just Washington on its own, because I was really a couple months ago I was reading about just how really horrific our education here is in this state, public education, and then not only is it so bad, but the amount of sexual crimes occurring against our students.
Oh, dude,
and then on top of that,
yeah.
now they're the Democrats in our state. It's like basically a one-party state here. That's why they hate people like me here because they're just like they're trying to like get me out, but I'm like won't go.
I'm gonna stay.
You need people like me so
Right.
you can point the finger and say that's the bad
Right.
guy.
This is my house.
My house.
That's gonna be like what your go-to. This is my house.
My house. But they were talking about how education, like our 8th graders can't even 70% of our 8th graders can't even read at their level. Or maybe that's 60, and then there's like 70% can't even do math at high school levels.
Yeah.
Or at middle school, high school levels. And so, but then you scale out, and then you look at the rest of the United States, and it's everybody. I know Washington, you know, we have the teachers unions here, and you start to get this feeling that they're very corrupt because what they're doing is they're promoting all this sexual stuff. They're trying to introduce basically child grooming. If I'm being serious and honest, is they're just doing all this thing in child grooming education and just labeling it very nicely
By the terms, by their
pride
terms, right? Yeah.
stuff, you know. And it's like, okay, there's pride is one thing. You already have a whole month, and you know, and it's like you talk about, okay, this is what this, but you're talking about getting drag queens into the library and reading them and just like exposing them. Kids that just their minds are just not ready for a lot of this stuff, and a lot of parents deliberately don't expose their kids to this kind of stuff. So in Washington, you get 18,000. It's like 18,500 per student, and so anytime you take your child out of school, that's 18,000 less that your the school gets, and so they want, you know, high enrollment rates. But it's like we are seeing so many people being pulled out of public school.
Yeah.
So it's like they're doubling down on these things that are literally not working. But they have just decided that this is the hill we're going to die on. We are child groomers, allegedly, in this state. And it's like, and you back that up when you start looking at these laws. Like in Olympia, there was this student, or school teacher, someone that worked for the school that had committed some crimes against a child, sexual crimes, and no jail time whatsoever. They did a plea deal. And then the Democrats are introducing new laws to protect the suspect. And they now they're saying, oh, if something happens to your child, we don't have to tell you anything until 48
like 40
hours.
Yeah, 48 hours, something like that, right?
48 hours, you know? I mean, you're talking 2 days.
Oh, I know that's just a problem, right? When you look at it from the perspective, I mean, I'm a father, you're a father, of course. It's different when it really hits you on the side of just when you have children.
Yeah.
Because a parent, by all means, anybody can agree with me, I'm sure, that, you know, a parent's very protective of their kids. And of course, you just want what's best for your kid.
Right.
When something that you obviously don't agree with, that's when you kind of like put your little protective mode shell on. It's like a lot of this stuff's kind of BS to me, in my opinion, right? It doesn't just make any sense to me, where it's like, how do they choose the best interest for our kids? How do they know what's best for our kids? That's kind of where my problem's at. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so it's like, I don't know why they feel like they're obligated to just make these decisions and not like include everybody's, like, I mean, obviously it's too much to ask for, but it's like, you know, really get the opinion from parents within this state. Of course, if we're talking about Washington only, but it's like in general.
But
like
in general, this is not an isolated incident. This is nationwide.
For sure. But it's like, that's kind of where I think about this when we're talking on this subject. It's just insane to me to think that there's just a bunch of laws that are just getting passed where it's like, wait, did they ask any of us? Like, did they ask the public? You know,
no,
it's crazy to me.
Like,
it's insane.
The whole parent, whatever the parent rights thing, it is 80% of voters are against it. They are against, not against parent rights, but against the law that. So basically, there was a huge petition that got signed when Jay Inslee was still governor, and they were all pissed off because they got enough votes, enough signatures to do to basically force Olympia to say we want a parents' bill of rights that allows the parents to still be in charge.
Yeah.
These activists in Olympia, they are overriding the parents. So what they did is it was in law for the rest of that year. But they were using like court cases or court to push it out as much as they could. But eventually they couldn't. They couldn't fight it anymore. They had to lose it. So the first thing they did was the legislators in Olympia got together, and then they made a new thing that took that one out right after it got all of these votes from Washington voters.
Insane.
And
it's insane.
That's what we're up against. And it's like, who is doing this? Why are you guys going against us?
That's crazy.
And so that's where it's just like, it's like they're in the FA portion. It's like they're tempting us with the FO portion.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm just telling you, like, I know that they're trying to play this bold stance, but when people rise up and, we have to like really organize in a way that really lets Olympia know that, no, we're not joking.
Yeah.
These are our children. These are like, I created this child from my loin.
Yeah.
I am not letting another human being, especially a perverted activist, interfere with her education.
Yeah.
That is not happening.
Amen. I mean, you say at the end of the day, we're the parents at the end of the day. We know what's right. We're gonna, set these boundaries and rules. It's just how it is. I don't trust anybody else. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it. I'm plain and simple.
Yeah.
People, you know what I'm saying? So
sorry.
Sorry.
Not sorry.
Yeah. It's my house.
Yeah. My house.
Oh, but still, we went from Egypt to the children.
Egypt to the children.
Hey.
But I mean, we can go. Where's some other things going on? There were some other things. Did you have something else on the docket?
We had a few other. I mean, just a lot of interesting stuff.
We weren't even done. I'm sorry.
He missed the bull points.
Oh my god!
Producer, is doing a horrible job. By the way, you're fired. From keeping all the stuff that we're talking about here on our screen.
Come on, Jamie.
No, we just picked some random stranger here producing.
He's homeless.
Yeah. So, I do have a couple other bullet points about the new discoveries on the pyramid.
My apologies.
No worries, bro. That's just what the podcast is about. We go everywhere, anywhere. So, one interesting little fact, of course, is Nikola Tesla. He once speculated that the pyramids might collect and harness Earth's natural energy. Engineer Christopher Dunn echoed similar ideas in his book, The Giza Power Plant, proposing that the Great Pyramid operated as a giant machine capable of converting seismic vibrations into usable energy.
Yeah. I've always wondered what Nikola Tesla meant by, if you understand 369, you will understand the universe.
Really? You said that?
Yeah, he says something like that along those lines. And I've just never, and again, back to numerology.
That's great. That's right. Yeah,
those numbers are
what
heavy.
Do they mean?
369, 6 is your, home-bodied. I don't know what 3 is, and then 9 is like all about loyalty. But those are like life path numbers. But as far as like the numbers, what they represent, like anywhere else, I don't know. I don't know.
So he said, if you understand 369, you'll understand the universe.
That's what. Yeah.
That's a bar right there. But I wish, man, somehow he would have explained it, or at least give us like a slight taste. It's almost like a tease. Like, what do you mean by that? But didn't he say also too, like he actually came up with, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's a famous, I think it's like a drawing or illustration someone made of him sitting with like what it looked like, these bulbs, and they were all producing like this electric,
wireless electricity.
And he's just sitting there kind of like showing his invention that this could be done. But I don't think it's, I mean, do we use anything like that nowadays?
And Thomas Edison, no, that's the thing though. Like Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, when you have Wi-Fi, that's what is freaking so many people out about 5G. Is because it's a different level. It's a different wavelength than Wi-Fi, regular Wi-Fi. But that is energy, invisible energy.
Yeah.
Going through the air. And so the fact that he captured electricity energy is just wild.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like Thomas Edison, he was the money guy, right? He was like the guy that bought his stuff and then just shelved it, made sure that it never saw the light of day. Because the biggest fear, the conspiracy goes, is that Nikola Tesla, if he would have come out with this free wireless energy, we would never have an electricity bill.
Yeah. Yep.
And then that
Everything would be free.
like sink the economy. Because if everything's free, then how are we going to fund our
Can't
country?
control it. Can't do anything.
Yep.
It's money for me.
I can be homeless and not care.
Yeah.
My phone's always charged.
Dang, dude. Yeah. That's crazy. I don't
Cars
know,
would
man.
never have to get gas or get charged.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the stuff like this where, if Nikola did really say that these pyramids were some type of just, there were huge harnesses, like a power source, and it was powering up something.
Yeah.
But it still blows my mind. Like, for what reason?
Well,
what,
and then
what is it?
They
for
talked
what?
about the original, like when the pyramids were brand new, they had a gold cap.
Yes.
And
it
then
was coated. It was coated with like this gray type of like color. It's not how it looks like now.
Right.
It's over time, but it was like a gray color where when the sun hit it, it would like reflect.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, like, dude. To me, like, I when I first heard this stuff, dude, I go into like this. My mind just goes off into just different avenues of like. For me, I mean, obviously, it goes into UFOs, like talking about, like thinking, like, did we really have help from extraterrestrial like entities and all that?
That's the thing. And so again, these things were made pre-flood, and so so basically all of the evidence has been erased with a big flood, if you believe in that theory.
Yeah.
But those were said to be the most intelligent people that did that, and for whatever reason, right, that those people were wiped out, like no more. Those secrets are not going into the future. So there's a reason why, if the flood theory is correct, that these secrets have been suppressed and hidden from us.
So one thing you did bring up that actually kind of connecting like together. What about the Nephilim?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Those would have been the people.
So give people a little, like, just a little summary, like Nephilim, if people weren't really.
Oh, okay. So like the Nephilim were like the fallen angels, and what got them in so much trouble with God was that they started falling in love with the human females and started having babies, and then these babies were big old giants, and and then basically they started eating all of the resources. They basically enslaved humanity, and then but the people that they kept alive, they were teaching them hidden secrets, like they taught us how to make weapons. So and then they were teaching the women how to do spells and how to do like different things. And so those were not supposed to be taught to humans. Humans weren't supposed to know how to build weapons. They weren't supposed to know how to fight wars. They weren't supposed to see bloodshed. But the Nephilim, they came down and they showed all this. So that's where God decided, okay, I'm going to eradicate everything. So in that term, you talk about these big, heavy things. Well, if it's a bunch of giants making this thing, and they're making it to signal themselves or their own people or whatever, then it's not as far-fetched to assume that, or to imagine that these big giants are moving these things.
Yeah.
A lot easier than us, little...
And there's always tales too about
humans.
like giant humans too. There's always been tales like I've heard so many different ones about, even like that story. It was a Reddit story, but I think I've heard it from other people, like on other podcasts, talking about it, about that mission in Afghanistan.
The Kandahar, the giant of Kandahar.
Yeah, something like that. So it's like,
yeah, and then they quickly move the body.
Disposed of it, or did whatever with it, right?
And I know you can't believe everything, but I mean, I've seen this stuff in the 90s as well, where like you're talking, what are those people that dig in the ground?
Yeah. I remember. I forgot what country.
But those scientists that dig in the ground, and then they find these big bones, and so in modern time, like you'll see, like if you go down to Seattle, you'll see the tall guy at Pike's Place. That's a disease. That's like the opposite of dwarfism. It's like giantism or something. And that's a disease. That's where your bones and your body is growing, but your organs can't keep up.
Yeah.
And so eventually you
short lifespan.
Yeah, short lifespan. So you go early. But the giants, that we're finding these fossilized bones, those were like legitimate full-on giants.
That's crazy, dude. I don't know, man. I mean, we can go for days on this topic, man, but I think it's just it's crazy to, like, as time progresses and we're finding this stuff out with the technologies that are coming out. I really hope in our lifetime, and of course, we have the pod, to really discuss all this stuff in real time, when new information comes out. But we're finding out all, like, it wasn't really a big thing too when this came out. I think it just started hitting the news. I came across it on X, of course. I think I sent you a video about it, but I think it's getting out there more since people are making like shorts about it, making, of course, episodes about it as we're contributing to as well. But just because it's one of the places I would want to go visit in my lifetime to go see for myself. I've met people that have actually seen it firsthand, and they always tell me it's really like you're in awe when you're face to face with these things, and you're just like,
that is wild.
Did we really build these? That's like the first question that everybody asks. Did we really build these, and how?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was a short story, but I went to get some gyros over here by a local shop where we live, and the kid that was working at the front, he was from Egypt, and I was just like, yeah, man, I actually would want to go visit Egypt. I want to see the pyramids, and he was just like, it would be such an amazing experience for you to see them in real life. Nothing compares, no pictures, videos, all that. You would have to see in real life, because you just like he just said, like, you just feel like this, like you're just drawn to the fact that you're standing in front of a building that's standing there for 5,000 years that we've yet to really like explore it.
And we haven't. Yeah, there's so many questions that exist. Another thing too that I heard, you're talking about those caverns.
Yeah.
Another theory that I heard was that it was for sound, for different sounds. So like for healing. And so, what their theory was that sound waves, like certain sound waves, can actually have healing properties. And so each cavern was set at a different frequency, and so you just whatever you want, right? So it's just, there's all those. And have you ever heard the theory with the bells too? Like there used to be bells all over the world, and they were healing bells.
I never heard of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's another one where, and then so they talk about, in this, like we're in this new dark age where the people, like a small group of the elites, think of like the Rothschilds and, all those top secret people, right? These very reclusive families, they have all this control over the world. And so they started seeing that all these bells were healing people. So they started going into all these cities and removing all these bells so that we would be forever sickened.
Pharmaceutical
and you
companies.
You think about all this other stuff, and it all ties in with it.
Oh man. I mean, yeah, I could see that being possibility.
So are we on the cusp of a great awakening? Because, like you look at X, right? And, I just remember in 2020, so much of this stuff that we talk about now, we were getting strikes on YouTube.
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah, some stuff that we just labeled misinformation, and I had to come in and be like, no, I mean, we're not really, we're like, I forgot what the reason is I put, but I mean, I got some of the stuff unflagged, but you're right. It's like a lot of the stuff it was really suppressed.
It was gatekeepers, yes. Right? It was gatekeepers holding back this type of conversation. We're not even saying we're coming up with answers. We're just having conversation.
Yep.
And the power of conversations with human beings for our entire history has been, I say something, you say something, someone else hears it, sparks something in there, and then it's just this domino effect, this chain reaction of a greater awakening occurring. And that's where, some of these ideas get told. In fact, I was reading that book, American Cosmic.
Yeah.
And it was talking about with religion, how UFOs and aliens, the author was going into this theory how UFOs and aliens are basically the new religion of our time, and talking about what it takes to create a religion and all this and that. Well, Anyway, and so she was talking about how these scientists that work in this lab, it's like a very secret group of scientists. But one rule that they said, nothing is off limits, no conversation. So if you want to suggest there's a unicorn flying on a pickle in space, no one can laugh at that. You're allowed to say whatever. So the point is, and the goal of that is that come out with the most obscure idea and it might just work. It might just be the answer that we're looking for.
Yeah, because you never know what's, like you said, it's like taking multiple shots. Like even with like you were using that one idea or that method, the way you would say things, you're hitting the wall with so many things. Eventually, something's gonna stick.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a way to think. Like, you know, these conversations. Like, think of it, we could be just sitting here, two guys with the mics and the camera pointed at us and recording. But at the end of the day, what if like they're gonna look back at time? Dude, those dudes from the Beyond Expectation guys were right. They were talking about this long ago.
Or someone, a listener, is, you know, more in tune with all this stuff and actually knows more than we do, but we said something that prompted him to go there or her to go there, and all of a sudden, you know,
man, it would be cool to have like somebody on here that probably like is like some archaeologists that we could come across and just talk about this stuff and ask them questions about what they think about this, because it's always good to like meet those people from those fields too, to talk about those things, because it's like there's stuff that I don't know, there's stuff that you don't know.
100%.
It's like a cool learning curve for all of us, right?
You can only learn so much from reading, right?
Oh yeah, dude, I know. It's like I actually, like I told you earlier, like I like having these conversations and learning from other individuals, because that's kind of like the best way for me to learn stuff too. And it's always cool too when you listen to these podcasts, right, where there's just a lot of informative stuff coming out, because it's like one of those things, like I try to learn something new every day, right? And I think that's like a good way for me to like really kind of enhance just my, I guess, knowledge on certain things, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know about that, you know, just be well informed. And I think that's cool about this podcast, right? Like we just want to, you know, keep our a finger on the pulse on certain things, because it's just interesting conversation to have. And it's also just cool to just give our opinions and thoughts about it, because you said it could spark just a conversation for others too. It'd be like they weren't really interested in the pyramids, but now they are. Now they're doing like, oh dang, let me go look up this stuff, you know, see what it's really about. Now the conversation is getting even more and more higher, where maybe the Egypt government's gonna be like, you know what, maybe we should let these guys do some digging to see if what's really down there, you know, to see what really is out there, like what more do we need to discover and all that. So it's all a domino effect.
I feel like we're not even close to.
Oh man, dude. I mean, it's like
figuring out what's going on.
Like
there.
you said, it's starting now, bro. So it's better later than never. So I mean, right now we're literally, like I said, this was like recently that they brought these details out. So it's going to get interesting in the next couple of days, dude. So yeah, man. But I know we got a little bit of time, and we're about to hit the hour mark. But okay, so the JFK files, just to touch on that tip, because you brought it up earlier. Any new things you've read from the files that kind of caught your eye? I know one thing right off rip that I did see is that they were saying that Lee Harvey Oswald, they've been eyeing him, and they were kind of they knew that he was up to something. So it's like it's not like they went ahead and found him after the fact that he quote unquote shot JFK, but they actually had him on the radar. So it's like, so you're telling me you guys knew this guy was a red flag, and yet you let him carry out the hit. So it's like a lot of questions arise.
There's so many. So I haven't had the time to go into it. I've only had the time to just read kind of what other people have been reading. And so the feeling I'm getting is that, yes, it is showing that the CIA was clearly a part of it, but it's not revealing anything new that people didn't already know. However, I will still take it, and they still haven't released everything. There's still many things, and one thing, you know, we were talking about the USS Liberty, the ship that Israel bombed in World War II or around that era, and that's the one thing that they said, if there's anything that has to do with Israel, that can stay redacted. And that's my question, is why, like, you know, it was promised to us all of these documents were going to be unredacted. Why are we still redacting Israel? Why are we still protecting Israel?
Good questions, bro.
And that's, you know, that's very, very alarming to see, but I have also seen papers that do have Israel name written right in there, and so people working with. So it looks like the CIA had something to do with it. Israel has a hand in it. The mob has a hand in it. I mean, there's just so many things, and it makes me even more afraid for our president's life right now, because essentially JFK was going against the powers. He didn't want nuclear power, something like that. He didn't want Russia to have nuclear weapons, something like that. And then
describe the CIA
and then
too,
he
right?
was also getting ready to take us off the. He was going to put us on the, let's see, what was it? The gold standard. He was going to get rid of the Federal Reserve. That's where Israel had to do with it.
Oh, okay.
And so he had signed the executive order to get us off the Federal Reserve so that we would have control of our own currency, and then died like 6 days later. And then the first executive order that Lyndon B. Johnson signed was to take that executive order away, and we kept the Federal Reserve.
Dang, dude.
So
coincidence?
I'm just saying, I think there's more layers to look at there.
Yeah, crazy, man. That's definitely one that'd be a fun one to do if we did like a soul focus on a deep dive on the JFK files, just kind of how everything played out. That's always been something, like, even back when I was younger, dude, just like talking about it briefly. I never really looked into detail. As I go older, of course, it started really fascinating me, especially when you watched, I think it was me that I watched a documentary about it, and how there was just so many off things about it.
Yeah.
And you were talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, now I'm really interested in it.
Yeah, and I remember being in 7th grade, and I had a teacher who said she was a grade school student, and they were watching it live.
Damn.
So like she saw it live. That just crazy. Like, what was the event in Dallas anyway? Why was everybody watching? Dallas. Yeah. But it's also, again, this is where I think that there's more involved with when it comes to Trump, because they continue. So CNN, so Trump had all these different rallies, right? Mm-hmm. And then CNN only played one rally live, only one. And it was Butler, Pennsylvania. It was the one where he, an attempt was taken on his life, right? And so they're like, how did CNN know? Then you look at, in Trump's orbit, Roger Stone, who was working with him in the first administration, who was also an advisor for President Richard Nixon. He got raided, an early morning raid. Okay. And guess who was on the scene for that? The only news network. CNN. So somebody dirty is on the inside, and I is what I'm assuming. That's what it looks like, right?
What they call it. There's a mole.
Something.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that the media has just been complete radio silence on, is that Butler, Pennsylvania thing, and as well as the golf course. The golf course. There was that.
Oh, that's right. Guy. There was that one where they try to. Yeah. That's crap. I forgot about that.
There's just been nothing. No talks about it.
Everybody hates him, bro. That's why they don't care.
And I think that's partially why he released it, is because he knows that there's enemies on the inside, and because CNN just can't just arbitrarily decide, oh, you know what? And there's all these events going on. There's all these rallies. We're not going to cover any of them. We're just going to cover this one rally.
That's crazy.
They cover it, and then it ends up being, this thing. And oh, thank God that guy missed, man. Thank God. I mean,
it's crazy. But I forgot about the one on this golf course too.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. That guy was crazy, allowed to be there hours before, and he was allowed to get like a couple shots off. I mean, come on,
man. Dude, I don't know. Conspiracy?
But that's why I love the people that he has in his administration right now. Like, those are people that really, really, really want to see him
succeed.
Mm-hmm. And they'll do anything and everything they can to keep him protected.
Yeah. What's just because we're talking about the people with him, what's that gentleman's name, that golfer that they talk about, he can like down a bunch of Diet Cokes, and I sent you a clip of him talking about how he played with Tiger Woods and he beat him, and he said he was pretty parched drunk that day. Oh my God.
I don't know who he is.
He's like I want to say he was a professional golfer, but he hangs out with Trump a lot because they golf, right?
Yeah.
But it was just funny to hear that story because I've seen him before, like in a bunch of pictures.
He's the one that always wears the crazy clothes.
I believe so, and he has like a mullet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on that one.
That guy's the true living legend. I forgot. I'm not sure who he is, but dude, it's just crazy to know like this dude. The funny thing about it, why I'm bringing it up, because you're talking about how like Trump has a bunch of good people around him and all that. The dude just seems so like laid back. He drinks a lot of Diet Cokes, but he likes to drink a lot heavily. And he just tells a story when he beat Tiger Woods. I wouldn't want to say in his prime, and he was just like super drunk. I was like, damn, this dude is a different breed of
functioning
animal,
alcoholic is what we call those guys.
Yeah, dude. I mean, hey, back in the days, or even until now, some people can just perform at their best, even if they're a little intoxicated.
A little tipsy. Yeah. I know. That's what I say all the time. I'm like, why aren't we allowed to drink at work?
Well, what is it? Especially like the stories we would hear about, where we work at, past previous employees, they would say that they were able to drink, right?
Yeah.
Before, like at what is it, job parties or whatever, or work parties and all that. So it's like the morale must have been super good to where you're like, your productivity's through the roof.
Yeah.
So it's like the contributions in that must have been good,
they
right?
just can't figure it out. They're like, why can't anybody be productive these days?
Like, why?
Like, just there is a what is that term? Oh, I forget. I'm drawing all these blanks tonight.
Yeah.
Elixir. There is an elixir out there.
Definitely.
That helps for team building.
For sure. Not morale boosters. What do they call those? Like group. What's that terminology they use? Like, it's building team morale. Is it team morale or something like that? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, you got to figure it out.
I worked at one of my first jobs. I was working at like a hardware store, like a hardware improvement store.
Yeah.
A home improvement store. And I was talking to some of the OGs there, and they were talking about working in the 80s. The 80s, man, 80s was lit.
I can tell. Yeah,
he was talking about how he used to drive down the main aisle, on a forklift, and he goes, "Yeah, it was just unheard of to not have a beer with you."
And I'm sure he's got to bring in. He probably had a cig there too. Right?
Oh yeah, he's clearly, and he was an old Italian, so he has hamburger meat always just pouring out of his shirt. Yeah, beautiful.
Dude, I can just imagine, dude. I mean, we've had our good times, when we used to work together, and we would replicate just how it would have been in the '80s, just like working with a cigarette in your mouth, and you just.
Oh yeah, going home in your T-tops, T-top Trans Am.
I would have to say probably those were. Is it fair to say those were the golden years in America?
I mean, it depends on what you're looking
90s,
for, right? I mean, if you want a little bit of snow and go, 80s was your jam.
Yeah, dude. I have to say, like, when you look back at, like, every now and then, I like to take a trip down memory lane and look at, like, vintage videos. Like, maybe some families recorded some videos of, like, them going to Las Vegas. And just the vibe you kind of get, like, damn, dude, like, life must have been good around
freedom,
that time,
dude.
Right? It's like, it's so night and day difference, and it just takes you back, like, like, you're like a time traveler and looking back at all just how it was back in the day.
And even,
you know what I'm saying?
like, it wasn't until Reagan got into office that we didn't have machine guns anymore, but machine guns used to be legal. You know what I mean? Can you imagine down in Miami with your Cuban friends and you're just shooting? I just saw this video on. I thought it was Theo Vaughn.
Yeah,
I thought it was Theo Vaughn, but he's in this boat. Yeah. Maybe you sent it to me. Someone sent it to me. But anyway, there's this guy fishing in his boat, and the fish are just flying out of the water. Right? He takes a shotgun and he's shooting fish. Is that you that said that to me? God, that was beautiful.
Freedom, baby.
I'm like, this is like,
this is American game.
He ain't eating them.
Your shotgun, fish, a boat,
hopefully a little tipsy.
Right?
Yeah. You don't want to do that sober.
What happened to America? We used to be a country, right, dude?
I know.
Oh. Yeah, moral of the story, people. We can get there. We can get there.
We can get there. Yeah.
It'll take some time. But nonetheless, brother, I mean, dude, I feel like that's a solid episode.
I think we did
I think
it.
we did.
I
We
think
did.
we
We
done did
went, we went, you know, we ping-ponged it like we always do. But hey, like I said, we try to make this as entertaining as possible for you lowly folks that are listening to the audio
It's all for you.
or watching our video. But of course, just to remind you folks, we are on Instagram, Beyond Exposition Podcast. You'll find all the latest in regards about the pod, clips, announcements of just future episodes. And also we have a direct link in our bio that'll take you where we're available on all major streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Tune FM Radio. We're everywhere. You can even Google
don't forget
us.
X.
Yeah, don't forget X too. We're on X as well.
We're growing too.
Yeah, we're growing slowly but surely. But it'll be easy for you probably if you just Google us, Beyond Exposition Podcast. It'll give you possibly all the links where we're available too. So yeah, go check out our past previous content. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care. We love you. Till the next time, baby. Peace.